Down the Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing rubber frauds. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. I'm your host, Greg Sylvander. Today's floor plan with me, Alex Toledo. We're going to try to figure out where the hell the Heat go from here. We're going to update on the Jimmy Butler injury, look ahead to the game against Chicago, maybe take some walks down memory lane in the game against Philadelphia, and try to just make sense of this. Before we do, though, want to shout out one of our great sponsors. Do you have a water leak and you can't find where it's coming from, or you're dealing with water or mold damage in your home or business? Y'all know who to call. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-579-0356. Over 60 years of combined experience. Michael, Robert, their entire team. They're there to find the leak detection issues, damage assessment. Over 60 years of combined experience, as I mentioned, fully licensed, insured, certified to provide the one-stop shopping you need. Service areas include Miami, Broward, Palm Beach County. Call Michael anytime on his personal cell, 954-579-0356, WCUFL.com, Water Cleanup of Florida. If you got the schmutz, they got the guts. And they might be the only ones who still have guts right now. Jimmy Butler, the latest there is he's hurt. Probably going to be out, I'd say. They said multiple weeks. I'm going to go ahead and call it a month right up front. And I did hear positive things in terms of the way that he was able to be a little bit more mobile than they expected. And things like that. But I don't want to dissect injuries. It just sucks. And I feel like, where does the team pick up from here? I sense that it's a deflating thing to have to go through to try to pick up the pieces of this and gear yourself up for a playoff run without your best player now for several weeks. Alex, I guess let's start here. Who do you think starts the game against Chicago? Because now they have the glaring hole with Jimmy Butler out for that game. And that is an elimination game, y'all. So we're going to see an interesting bit of rotations from Eric Spoelstra. I wonder if he trims back the rotation for an elimination game. Your thoughts on who starts?
Well, that's going to be interesting to watch for sure because, there's some factors here at play. Obviously, the news is terrible. I didn't think any of us thought it was, had too much hope about today and the results, especially with like Shams going out there earlier this morning.
Yeah,
way before anything was ever concrete, kind of putting it out there. Doesn't make you feel better that it's going to be something where like he can be back really soon. So it kind of confirmed, I feel like, what a lot of the feeling was after Shams put that out, unfortunately, and that sucks. It's terrible. There goes the season pretty much. Like that's just my first thought. And it sucks that we're at that point because, like I've mentioned plenty of times before, like it's a lot easier for us to do our job, right, in a lot of different ways when the Heat are playing well.
So true.
And so, right, like we feel it just as much as everybody. It sucks, man. Like we were all looking forward to this playoff run here. Like we've gotten, frankly, spoiled to it. The Jimmy era wasn't supposed to be like this, but you got in long playoff runs more times than not. And we were kind of expecting, a chance at another one. And now, if you're really looking at it with the state of the team right now, odds are you're tomorrow might be your last game of the season because it's not just losing Jimmy, because we've seen they've been able to win games when Jimmy is gone for short periods of time, of course. The problem is Terry is also out.
Yeah.
Duncan was available last game and didn't play, which, as you guys mentioned and others have mentioned, tells you a lot about where Spo, kind of evaluated him and if he looked like himself or not. And again, we've talked about it on here. There was no green flags with that either, considering it's a back thing. I had mentioned that like the pain gets exacerbated with any sort of twisting movement of the back, which is kind of all of Duncan's game coming off of the screens and handoffs. Like it would be cool if he played and looked like himself. That would be amazing because Duncan was a huge part of their offense, just like he has been other seasons. Except now with more layers to his offense, they could absolutely use that. So if for some reason Spo tomorrow feels like okay, Duncan is good to go and like good enough to throw him back into the starting lineup,
Huge
I'm not
boost.
I'm not against trying that. But my real answer is and yeah, that would be a nice boost. Like they could have used him so much last night. Same thing with Terry for different reasons. My real answer I think is Jaime Jaquez. And I don't just say that because he had a good night, but that is definitely part of it. I just think at this point, again, no Jimmy, no Terry. Not sure what's going to happen with Duncan. I think at this point it's just about getting, big game reps for your young players. Like Jaime is getting sort of a promotion right now, right? Kind of an impromptu promotion. It's like, okay, you're gonna go from not getting many touches to probably getting more. Like you're probably gonna. I'm guessing he's gonna start, and I think he's gonna get more touches. And you gotta like what he did, just finding his way and kind of in the midst of chaos last night. Um, but I think now it's about getting him and Nico, just some of those minutes and just like put them in these big games. If you win, that's great, right? Like nobody expected you to do that. Like it's terrible. It's the situation is terrible. Nobody expected anything. There's a lot of Heat fans saying don't give the Celtics the satisfaction, their Celtics and their fans the satisfaction of eliminating, a depleted Heat team, as weak as that may be, to be satisfied over. And I get it, but to me, there's just no benefit to do that. It's just like, you're locked into your draft pick, so you can't even point to that, which of course the Heat would never do anyway. Spo would never even think about, losing a game on purpose.
No.
It's not in the cards. And so I think they're going to play to win. Maybe they win. I think somebody told me that like the Heat were favored. I don't know why. They
Yeah,
haven't.
they're still, I think, a 1.5 point favorite as we pod right now.
I don't know what they know if Duncan's going to be like 100% tomorrow because to me, everything logically should tell you the Bulls should be favored. The Heat have been very underwhelming. We're kind of close to 500 at home, and now they're missing a lot of their offense with a team that badly needed offense as it was. So no, in all honesty, I don't expect them to win tomorrow. I think they can, but I'm not going in there like, oh, you got a couple more home games coming. I'm going in there tomorrow, and I'm gonna be happy if I get to see a couple more home games, and that's it because I've had a day to sit and think about it and just kind of be over how sucky last night was. It just is what it is at this point. And, seeing the Tyler thing get toxic immediately was not surprising. It just sucks that we're here. It sucks that we're here because Tyler didn't play well. I know I'm rambling at this point. I'm sorry. He didn't play well, but he was put into a terrible position, man. Like he was never supposed to be your first option.
No.
And he got put into that position pretty quickly. I know Jimmy played pretty well right after the injury, but, especially in that second half, it was all him. No Terry, no Duncan to help out with the offense. They weren't really running stuff for Bam to score, and he was just kind of screening and then being out of the play. And then other than that, like it was Jaime finding his points and then a couple of like open threes from DeLon and Haywood, and that's it. Like you had no other offense, and Tyler was forced into this position that all of us agree he shouldn't be in and didn't play great. So like it's hard for me to be like, oh, it's all on you, Tyler. Like I get it. He shot bad, he had the turnovers.
It's never on one person.
No, so it's just he's become the face of it now, and it's just like I hate that we're here, man. I hate that we're here.
There's a few things I want to pick up from what you said about tomorrow. I expect Jaime Jaquez would start, so I'm with you there. I think that you said it, man. Big game reps. That's what you want from like any Heat fan that tells you, oh, I would rather lose, or you're in some deflated position where you don't want to give the Celtics and their fans, as you mentioned, the benefit of winning in a series against you, although you've gotten plenty of wins there. So I think that we'll be okay, regardless of the outcome. You try to play and win because you want big game reps for your young guys. And so for Nico to get that, for Jaime to get that, even to see DeLon in big spots, to me, like that's interesting information as you gather roster building data for the future. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm interested to watch, but it's hard for me to get too excited about it because it's just deflating when you lose your best player. Jimmy had 4 steals in that first half, man. He looked like he was on another level again, and at least aggressive enough to be on another level again. And when you see that defensively, it was a separation point, and he came back to earth and was injured. So it just sucks. Before we dive into the next part of this, which is basically how do you approach the game, the matchup against Chicago specifically? We're going to get into that a little bit. Want to call out our next sponsor, and that is Better Edge. You always see the coach Sean Rochester calling this out. They pride themselves at Better Edge for really giving you a different experience than any other platform. You create your own lines, create your own prices. You can bet head to head against your friends, your coworkers, influencers. There's a no vig marketplace, so it connects you with bettors across the country. No vig at all. You got to use the code 5RSN. That gets you $20 in free play. Better Edge, it's a completely cool, different experience that'll change your perspective on betting. Check it out. Better Edge. It's a web-based platform. You can get the app on your phone. 5RSN will get you $20 of free play. Check out Better Edge today. All right, Chicago. Kobe White just dropped 40-something. Usually I wouldn't be worried about this matchup. Even with Jimmy out, there's a part of me that's like, if you had Duncan and you could just activate offense with Duncan and Bam and Tyler, I think you'd have enough. And they may still have enough, but it is a weird matchup. I think these teams split so far this year. Your thoughts on Chicago coming in, how they contain Kobe White, and just overall the matchup against Chicago?
They're dangerous. And I'm not just saying that because they almost kind of prevented that magical run, that magical playoff run last season. They're dangerous because, like you said, Kobe White has kind of emerged into that second star with Levine having all those injuries. And Kobe White has killed them in the past. And I think the guy's pretty dynamic. Like, he's not a, not top 15 player or anything, but he's a really good player. DeRozan has been a really good player for a long time. So, yeah, it's not going to, like, the team record-wise, they're not, like, amazing competition, but they have a lot of good NBA players, nowhere near contendership, of course, but,
You
Vucevic,
think Caruso plays?
There was some good news if you're a Bulls fan today regarding his injury status. Like, there's some optimism that he'll play tomorrow, but like they've got players, they've got enough guys to beat the Heat in their home on their home floor, like they almost did last season, with the Heat going into it absolutely limping. Like, I think it's going to be really tough. I think the Heat have historically, in this era, been pretty good when they're backed into a corner like this. But again, you have to be sharp, man. And I went on and on about it last night on our post-game stream, and it's like, when you're going into these circumstances, there is no margin for error, man. You're going into it with the odds against you, like everybody's picking against you for good reason, and you have to be on top of your game. Last night was a perfect example. Like, they finished with, I think, 13 turnovers. You're usually a low turnover team. That really does not, like, they cannot be doing that type of stuff on top of their defense, not being anywhere near the same level in the second half as it was in the first. Like, those things completely destroyed everything. And then you have like those fourth quarter plays that I don't even want to go over because it's still too early. But like the Oubre and one, with all the Batum plays,
that was a backbreaker. The Oubre and one, man.
Oh my gosh! Like, there was so many. Like, they almost grinded that game out despite everything. And so again, I think they can win tomorrow, but it's really dangerous, and the odds are probably against them. Like, they're gonna. If it obviously depends on who they start, but I don't even really know who's gonna be matched up on who, because maybe you put Caleb on Kobe White. I think that's maybe the most likely scenario. But then,
agree.
Is Jaime gonna be, if he starts on DeMar? That might be some good playoff experience for him, right? Just to go up against a guy who's played big time playoff minutes and scored against defenses.
Well, and he also hit one right in Jaime's face, remember?
Yeah, that's right. That's a really good point. I wasn't even thinking about that. And so it's, like, that's all you had to look forward to at this point. And I know, like, nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear any of us talk about, hey, go and get playoff refs. It's not what they're about. Like, they're about winning. I get it. But what are you going to do? This is where they're at this point. It's it really sucks, man. And I'm almost like going just back and forth, repeating the same things. But like, if you really just keep down your turnovers, if you play a game where your defense is really sharp, like that needs to be said always. If your defense is really sharp, you keep a low turnover game, kind of play the possession game. I think they can win. They just obviously it's tougher now when you don't have your number one guy, the guy who gets you rim attempts, the guy who gets you a lot of free throw attempts, and then you had Terry who can do stuff one on one, not playing. Duncan who was creating a shit ton of offense when he was going, either not playing or not being himself. Like they're gonna have to like again, going back to when I was rambling earlier, now to throw it back into this tangent I'm on, like Tyler is going to be put in a really bad position once again.
He's
Because like
he's going to have to take 25 plus shots again.
I don't know how many shots he's going to end up taking. He's definitely going to take a good amount. That's for damn sure. But like ultimately, I don't think any of us thought like that. If you were to tell me before the season that like all they've got is a Tyler Bam pick and roll and like no tuck in, no Jimmy, like good luck, man. That's not a winning formula. The Tyler Bam pick and roll is a cute part of their offense that you can go to, for spurts throughout a game. But that is going to be their entire game plan. And guess what? That is not going to be able to work against teams that have already figured you out when it comes to that, including the Philadelphia 76ers and Nick Nurse, who just like for the past few months, teams have been throwing similar stuff that the Heat have been throwing at opponents for years and years and years now, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to pack the paint against you. And maybe we won't do it quite as good as well as you, but Jimmy and Bam are going to feel it. And although Jimmy was playing great, like if you look at a lot of his points, he was getting to the free throw line, which is really good to see. But like he was getting a lot of points from the steals, again, which was great to see at the time. But it's not like he was just chopping them up in the half court.
No,
I think
not at all.
The Heat have yet to adjust to that when they were healthy. So now to try to do it without all of these guys, like there's really not a lot you can go to. It's going to be a lot of Tyler Bam pick and roll. I think you could see more. I think it would be really smart if Spo went to a lot of like Bam at the top creating. But even then, they're still going to sag off. Like they're going to be sagging off of Jaime. They're going to be sagging off of Haywood, DeLon. Shout out to those guys for their contributions the other night. But the game plan is not going to change there. So all the odds are against the Heat. Billy Donovan is not new to this. I would be surprised if he didn't do the same thing tomorrow. And they were a good defensive team last year too. The Bulls were, believe it or not. So it is not going to be easy by any means. The odds are going to be against them. They can pull it out. But yeah, again, it sucks that we're here, man.
A couple final thoughts, and then I'll hold your feet to the fire and get your prediction as we're out of here. I'm interested to see how many reps they give Bam down low, just to kind of create. I think he can get around Vooch pretty easily, and 9 field goal attempts is not enough. That's what he had up in Philadelphia. I hope to see more from him offensively in this specific game against Boston. We'll talk about another day if that's where they advance to, because I do think Miami will get a victory. Do you agree with me there, or have you lost all hope and guts?
Oh, like I've said throughout this pod, I really do think they can win. Like just trying to imagine that scenario, and I could see it. I can see it because we've seen it so many times throughout the years. Like they can win because we're talking about one game, not even a series, right? So like we can win. They can win a one game sample size without their best player. It's just so tough to predict that when they're also missing the other guys. It's like it's going to be so much Tyler Bam pick and roll and a lot of Bam trying to create one-on-one like you mentioned.
Jaime has a real big opportunity.
Yes, I really want to see the Jaime post touches, and I want to see more Nico. I get why they didn't close with him last night. They don't typically close with him, and why he didn't play too much. It's not like he was playing amazing or anything. But I think now, in the state the team is in now, it's just get those guys reps. I don't want to see Nico get only like 13 minutes unless he's just playing really bad. Like I think it's about getting those guys reps, seeing like if you can upscale their role a little bit, right? Like see what happens when you throw them into a little bit higher usage, because both of those guys, obviously, different skill sets, have some, playmaking upside to them. And Jaime's rim attacks, I think, are going to be really important tomorrow. They need that stuff, period. I was, clamoring for it when the team was healthy. More post touches, more rim attacks and touches for Jaime, because otherwise he's spacing out there. So, those relief buckets were huge. I'm glad he can provide that. But him actually getting, nice usage, I think, is going to help him. They can pull it out. Again, I I feel kind of 50-50 about it, man. Not to give a cop-out answer, but if you're gonna tell me like the Heat pull it out tomorrow, I'm not surprised. I'm not
Yeah.
surprised. Like I think they
I'm a,
can, but it's
I'm a
gonna be
little
tough.
worried about the energy. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little worried about the energy being deflated. Sometimes when they're backed into a corner like this, though, you're right. What you see is them come out and play sharp and with intent and things like that. So we'll see if that's what we get. Ultimately, I think Miami can win one game at home without Jimmy, but it's not going to be easy. I would imagine that we may see some zone from Chicago.
Oh
Also,
hell yeah,
the ball pressure on all of the ball handlers for Miami, I think, is going
more
to be
press.
like a big takeaway from the Philly game was the adjustments they made to put more pressure on whoever was bringing the damn ball up. And that was a mess in that game. I would imagine Chicago would take a page out of that playbook, but maybe they won't because they're Chicago and they're also, in a different scenario than Philadelphia is in,
I don't
frankly.
think you got to help as much either as the Heat had, felt like they had to at least last night
That's
in
true.
that second half, which is again where they're, like that's the game they play for years now. Like they're going to take that risk of giving up a lot of open threes. It worked for them in the first half and it killed them in the second half, right? Like they kept Maxey and Embiid in check. And then in the second half, I think they probably overhelped a little bit. We're kind of just panicking before, because they're sending help, but then sometimes I felt like in the second half they were sending earlier help than needed. And
Yeah.
it's like before a move was even made. And I get it, like throwing it in here and there, but I just felt like they were leaving guys way too open, like with no shot at a closeout. Because there's a difference between open and wide open, right? And I don't know how much you got to overhelp versus White and DeRozan. Like I think you try to match up one-on-one, send late help, and then that's when you really like play your game plan. But I don't want to be giving these guys just wide open threes to get in rhythm, man.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree on all points. We'll see how this goes. I think Miami will get a victory. So I still have a little bit of guts left, just like water cleanup of Florida. Thank you to Better Edge. Thank you to Alex. We'll have you covered for the Chicago Miami game. Alex, Brady, Ethan will be in the building. I'll be on the post game show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Five on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.